Since it's being recorded. Okay, hi everyone. Today's October the 11th, 2021. And you're watching Yakima Herald-Republic Editorial Board meeting with one of the two candidates for the District 4 position on the Yakima City Council. This is Janice Deccio, who is the Communications and Events Coordinator for Catholic Charities here in Yakima. Her opponent, Mark Shervey, has declined to participate in this interview. So, Ms. Deccio, welcome, and I'd like to say a few words about yourself maybe before we get into questions.
Okay, thank you. I am a lifelong resident of Yakima. I've been here 60 years. I still live in the same house that I grew up in, although I've moved away and come back. I took care of my mom for about 10 years. So after she passed, then I stayed here. I have a degree in a bachelor's degree in journalism, a master's degree in healthcare administration. I've worked at several nonprofit, that's mostly what I do, nonprofit healthcare, and that includes Catholic Charities is where I'm at now, and then Yakima Regional, which wasn't nonprofit, but St. Elizabeth's, Providence, and comprehensive mental health. I was there for quite a while too. So I've done mental health, allopathic health, and so I'm pretty familiar with those. And I love Yakima, and I want to run for office because I think it's the right time for me to do so. I'm nearing retirement age, and I think I could put my full attention towards it.
Fair enough. Well, first question we'd have for you is affordable housing and homelessness have remained a pretty serious issue here in Yakima for some time. What can the city do, in your mind, to help alleviate these problems?
Well, I think that it's vital that they do because it is such an important issue. The agency that I work with now actually does build housing for farm workers and low-income workers. And I love the model that they have. They do multifamily housing, but they provide education, counseling, and early learning for the children that live in those places. And I think that all works together to enrich people with lower incomes who may not have access to some of those services. And I also think that transportation and housing should be designed together. Because too often people who are paid low income or less, they don't have the kind of safe, effective transportation and adequate housing that they need. So I think something like that would be great to combine the two together. I do think that we need to look at zoning and stop the not in my backyard kind of mentality that some people have when it comes to housing. We have to look at all the options that we have, the vacant lots in this town, and I think that we need to work together with all the kinds of people who know what the different groups need, like mental health and substance use disorders are different than people who are aging out of foster care, for instance. A lot of times they're homeless, they couch surf. People who are just displaced because of lack of work. There are all different reasons for people to be homeless and who can't afford housing. So we should have people work together that are professionals in these areas, experts who can come up with a task force, if you will, to come up with some kind of a solution for these people. And we're not the only people facing this in Yakima. It's all over the country, and there have been places who have done good work towards this, and we can maybe bring people into the table who have already gone through some of this.
Good. Next question we'd have would be gang violence has been a problem here a long time too. And our question would be, what are we doing wrong as a city? Realistically, is there any way to stop the problems we're experiencing now.
It's a really tough problem. And it's been, you know, one of the things right now, I'm reading the book that the chief recommended. Let me get the name of, okay, yeah. Don't Shoot by David Kennedy. I don't know if you guys have read that yet. It's based on Kennedy's experience with Boston Miracle, so here's another example of someone who has gone and done what we want to have happen in Yakima, and he's been able to have some good results with some of the things that he's done. And he talks about it in the book, how, you know, it's about strategy of communications and how reconnecting the enforcement with the communities, the law enforcement with the communities. It's just, they have to understand that these kids that join gangs are not necessarily all bad. And then sometimes it's their situations that create, you know, we have to get it while before the kids can get ingrained into that kind of system. Because if we can't stop them from getting ingrained in the system, then it's going to keep going. I mean, there has to be something that we're not doing right now. And so social services, of course, are important. And there needs to be more focus on that. There needs to be more focus on what can be done to keep kids, like I said, keep kids from joining in the first place, have parents become aware of, you know, I'm sure some of this stuff is already being done and have been tried. And so it's enforcement needs to be strengthened, and officers need to be adequately, you know, offenders need to be adequately, what am I trying to say? I'm sorry, prosecuted. That's the word I'm trying to look for. You know, so that the people in the gangs, the guys in the gangs and girls in the gangs, can see what some of their options are instead of joining a gang. And like I said, in this book, they talk about ways to get through to these kids. And it's been, like I said, in Boston, it was a pretty good outcome. So that's not saying we can do that here. We have because we have a drug Mexican mafia problem that comes up into the Yakima area. It's a little bit different, but I think that I'm hoping that we can work together again to curtail this and maybe bring David Kennedy here. I mean, I know that right now the police are doing a series on their Facebook page about this very topic. And David is supposed to be one of the guests on that in the Zoom. I don't know if he's been on yet or not, but I think it's a super complex problem. And, you know, it's not going to be fixed overnight, but it's also, you know, we can make better inroads into it than we have, I think. Does that make sense? I was rambling a bit.
Yeah, quick follow-up. Do you feel like the city has adequate resources allocated to the
Yeah, and that's another thing. I want to make sure that I'll do all that I can to make sure that they have the right stuff that they need, the right resources that they need, because you can't do it if your hands are tied. And that, you know, I think that it needs to be a priority. I really want to make crime a priority, you know, getting rid of it, not more of it. So yes, I would like to see them make sure that they have the tools that they need to whoever is working on this, not necessarily law enforcement, but anyone who's engaged in this process, to have the tools they need to alleviate some of this, at least for the time being, until we can get a bigger handle on it.
And it sounds like you would approach it kind of from both ends, from the sort of the human services side.
Absolutely.
And, right.
Yes. I think it's at least a two-pronged, you know, attack, if you will, on it. But I think maybe as we go along, we'll find even more things that we can do as we talk to other people and do some, you know, get some more people involved with different ideas and maybe think outside the box a little bit more than we have. You know, I'm sure that there's a lot of people who have tried, and I think there's some good programs, but I think we can do more. So we have to do more.
Yeah. One more question from me, at least. If you're elected, what would your first priority be?
Oh, the crime that we just talked about. I think that's really the number one thing. And I think that's the thing that's on the top of most people's minds when I go and talk to people. They're really interested in that. And oddly enough, they're interested in other things that aren't quite as important, but you know, that's really what's mostly on their mind, especially since this summer we've had so many drive-by shootings with gangs and people getting hurt or killed, seriously hurt. And I think that that's really, I mean, there are a lot of things that the city needs to do right now, but that's the one thing that I'm the most concerned about. And also, you know, if I can say another thing, it would be the affordable housing and homelessness problem. Those are my two biggies. And then of course, infrastructure, roads, and that sort of thing. Street racing too. that was a lot more than one thing, but those are my things. So
there's a lot of things.
Yes, there's lots of things.
Okay. Kate, did you have anything you wanted to add or ask?
Yes, I had one additional question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Will you be voting on each of the 3 city charter amendments that are on the ballot? The one for adding city council meeting attendance,
Yes.
revising the charter, and then the income tax ban?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm all for the first 2 that you mentioned. I'm all for the third one. I don't even know why it's on the ballot, but I'm absolutely against a tax. So I'll be voting for that. But and I'm absolutely in favor of if you're elected to an office and you don't show up, that's the same as not showing up to your job, and you shouldn't be getting paid for that. You shouldn't keep your job. And so I think it really needs to be voted on, and hopefully the people will pass that part of the. I am at a loss for words today. So yes, I am absolutely for those.
Great, thank you. That was John.
Okay.
All right. Well, Ms. Deccio, do you have anything you'd like to kind of share with us just to wrap things up, and any last thoughts at your end there?
Well, I just think that Yakima is such a great place to live, and I want to see it really shine. And you know, it's difficult for us to do that when we have the crime problems and the kind of problems that we have. We want people to come here. We want people to tell other people about it, enjoy themselves, feel safe. That is really the most important thing, I think, is if we have a place where we can feel like we're safe here. And no place is completely without, their problems. And I don't, it's not going to become a utopia, but I think that we can go a long way, and we need to try really hard and quit bickering, quit looking, getting into the weeds and things, and just really concentrate and focus on what we really need to do. And that's what I intend to do if I am elected.
Okay. Well, we appreciate your taking the time. This has been our Yakima Herald-Republic's editorial board meeting. meeting with Janice Deccio, who is a candidate for District 4 on the Yakima City Council. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it. Bye-bye.